One of the top 10 jobs that could be affected by AI is pastors.
Welcome to the Propel Podcast, inspiration and innovation to grow your church. I'm your host, Larry Witzel. If God is giving you big dreams for growing his kingdom, then this podcast is for you. Our goal is to offer practical training for effective evangelism in the Seventh-day Adventist ministry context, but we know that the principles we talk about here are applicable in many other churches as well. So wherever you're doing ministry, welcome to the Propel Podcast. Well, the 2025 Propel Conference is fast approaching. It's happening April 27 to 30 in Puyallup, Washington. If you like the podcast, you're going to love the conference. There's nothing like it to connect with other church leaders, be inspired by amazing speakers, worship together, and gain practical tools to grow your ministry. Discounted registration is still available, so don't wait. Register right now at propelconference.org, and we'd love to see you there. This episode features Ernesto Hernandez, Media Director at the Washington Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, whose storytelling expertise has been shaped by mentors from Paramount Pictures, National Geographic, and other industry leaders. From directing short films to leading media innovation in the Adventist Church, his work blends creativity with purpose. Ernesto is at the forefront of integrating emerging technologies like virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and immersive reality into ministry. As a consultant, he collaborates with institutions like Andrews University and Montemorelos University to develop forward-thinking AI programs. Ernesto's vision is to help the church reach new horizons and create deeper connections in an ever-evolving digital world. In this presentation, Ernesto explores the integration of AI tools in ministry, particularly for pastors. He discusses AI's impact on the church and the practical applications of various AI tools for media production and research. Ernesto emphasizes the importance of ethical considerations in using AI and the need for education on these technologies to enhance ministry efforts. Ernesto also addresses the future of AI in various professions, advocating for a broader understanding of AI across disciplines. We'll hear from him in just a moment. Before we get to that, though, I want to take a moment to highlight our sponsor of this episode, Islam and Christianity. Created by author and evangelist Tim Rosenberg, Islam and Christianity is a series of Bible seminars that offers insights into the prophecy of Daniel 11 and its relevance to current events. Their website features seminars, resources, and books by Tim Rosenberg, who explores the historical and future roles of Islam and Christianity in Bible prophecy. Tim has helped many people understand the time of the end described in prophecy, and you can visit islamandchristianity.org for resources that deepen your understanding of Bible prophecy and its relevance today. Okay, let's turn to Ernesto Hernandez's presentation at the Tech Breakout Track at the 2024 Propel Conference. His topic, AI, your new superpower.
My name is Ernesto Hernandez, and we're just going to jump into it. We're going to get to it. First thing is, how many, I'm sure all of you have been exposed already or have played a little bit with some sort of tool? No? How many of you have played with a tool, and what tool have you played with? So I know you were telling me ChatGPT, Copilot. Yeah. And then, yeah. I think the majority of people know ChatGPT, that you've heard. And if you haven't, ChatGPT at this point is kind of like the AI tool that you should know about. It's more and we'll get into it. We're not going to focus just on ChatGPT. I'm going to give you a big picture of AI tools. I'm going to give you the big picture. And our goal is, I know that a lot of you are pastors. Majority are pastors, correct? So AI for pastors. It's very different. When I did this presentation at the Andrews PhD program for like mass media, they're not pastors. It's a very different mindset. So right now with AI, we're we're entering, it's the new industrial revolution. It's the new tech revolution. And it's something that I can't even imagine where this is going to be. If we say 15 years, we're talking, that's in the digital space, that's like a century. We're talking prophetic, ages, super long time, because just right now, I started playing with a lot of these tools 3 years ago. I started getting introduced to AI, and seeing how they've evolved has been fascinating. There's some that they're just taking leaps. Something to know about AI is they are being trained as you use it. So that's something very interesting. So if we're all using it right now, we're all training this model. So now imagine when the whole world is using this technology, it's learning from the whole world. So it's able to evolve extremely fast. Whereas usual software, it's like, if my brother and I are working on a piece of software, it evolves as we evolve together, as we're learning, as we're seeing how the world is changing. But when you have millions of people inputting data, it evolves so fast. So because of that, it's very hard to keep up with it. And like I said, right now it's the tech revolution. It's the industrial revolution of technology in this sector, because every day there's a new update. It's a new update. There's a new announcement. There's a new tool, or there's a tool that just went extinct yesterday because another tool came up with new tools or new features, and that just made another tool obsolete. So it's something that it's very hard. I've tried to learn as many as I can, because I'm going to give you my background. So how do I know and how did I end up in AI? My name is Ernesto Hernandez. I'm the media director at the Washington Conference, 2 hours up north from here. And my background is actually in media production. I studied, my passion was in video production. But even before that, I found my passion when I was a teenager, volunteering at my local church. I was born in Mexico. My parents migrated here to the US. We landed in LA, and we were not Adventists. Their story is a little bit, they got an apartment. We have a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old with a 1-year-old baby. And they have an apartment. They don't know anyone in this city. We're talking about LA. They don't know anyone. And then the neighbor one day shows up, and she knocks at the door. And she's like, hey, I noticed you guys have a little baby. Do you guys need anything? And they were kind of like, I don't know, stranger danger, I don't know. But she kept seeing them. They kept seeing her. And eventually she started sharing food with them. She started sharing diapers with them. She's like, oh, I noticed my parents were working, like my dad was working daytime shifts. My mom was working nighttime shifts. So she noticed they need help. They don't have family. And that's how she started. And then one day she says, there's a place where we give out free food every Saturday, and you guys can come and join us for a meal. And they're like, free food? Of course we're going to go. It was Sabbath potluck. So they started going to Sabbath potluck every Saturday with the neighbor that would give them dinner or give them diapers for the little baby. And they start going to Sabbath, and they're like, hey, these people are pretty nice. So we're talking, it's a Hispanic church, a Spanish-speaking church, because they spoke Spanish. And that church became their new family. So after 2 years of attending, doing Bible studies, they get baptized. And that's how I end up growing up in the church, in the Adventist church. That's how we found Adventism, through this lady that would knock at the door, offer free diapers, offer a meal, and then let's go get food on Saturday. So I grew up in the church. Eventually, I'm a teenager, and I started liking technology. I was the techie kid. And I was like, sure, I'll help at the sound booth. I was like, hey, sure, I'll move the things. I'll push the buttons. Why not? Time goes by. And eventually, as a teenager, I'll be honest, you don't really go to church for the sermons. But I would go to church and be on time because I needed to turn on the sound system. Sound booth needed to be ready. Microphones needed to have batteries. So that's how I started discovering technology. And I started really liking it. Then one day my dad hands me a camera, and he's like, here, start playing with it. I start taking pictures. I start taking pictures at church, and I discovered that I really enjoy cameras. So that's kind of how I discovered. But I was always debating between like the techie stuff, but I always wanted to do the arts, the creative stuff. I ended up going to California State University to do computer engineering. But I was, first year, I was like, that's too hard. There's not enough art in it. There's not enough creativity in it. So then I ended up switching to the cinema arts program to do film production. So yeah, I ended up going through that program and then ended up going to the UCLA Film School and doing a little bit of that. My goal was I want to be a production director for the church. I want to do movies for the church. I want to do TV for the church because we needed something good. A little bit, fast forward a little bit more. I graduate and then I knock at the door of my union and conference. I'm like, hey, I just graduated from UCLA. I've interned at Paramount Pictures. I've worked at Sony. Let's do something. And then they told me that's not what we do. That is not ministry. How about we give you an office job or something like that? But maybe, and we're talking 2012, around 2011, 2012. So I was like, yeah, I guess that is not where we're headed, right? So eventually, I didn't want an office job. I was not looking for that. I was looking to continue with my passion, my talent that God had helped me discover. So I go back out in the field and start working in like short films, the music industry, and all of that. Fast forward, my dad gets invited to plant the church in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we end up moving. I was telling my brother, I ended up working, at that point, I switched ships because there's no film industry in Tulsa, Oklahoma, middle of nowhere. But there was a lot of need to help people. So I ended up working in nonprofit management, go back to school, do some business law and business management. So where does AI come in with all these things? Eventually, I get a call from the Washington conference, and they said, hey, we've seen your video work. We really like it. We're trying to develop a media program. This is in 2019. And I was like, sure, I've always wanted to work for the church in media. And they're offering me a job, and that place looks pretty cool. So we take the job, and we moved there. My wife's back there. We got married, and so I moved up there. Eventually, being a techie, you're always like tinkering with things. You're always like pushing buttons. And then in 2021, I start hearing of like AI. One of the blessings of working in a Washington conference, which is located in Seattle, is that we have a lot of tech hubs, a lot of tech headquarters there. We have Microsoft headquarters, we have Google offices, we have Amazon headquarters, and a lot of our members work for these tech companies. So I start geeking out with all of our members and start recruiting some of our members, and then we start talking about this AI stuff. We had started talking about virtual reality, augmented reality, all the techie stuff that we like. So they started introducing me to like, hey, there's these AI things that are popping up. You know, we're talking 2021, like pandemic time. So while everybody's like dealing with pandemic, we're dealing with pandemic. We're trying to figure out, we're training our pastors, but I started tinkering with AI at the time. Obviously, it's not where it's at now, but they still didn't know that was the big thing that was to come. And all of a sudden, one day there's a big announcement and somebody says, there's this thing called ChatGPT, and it just blows up. And then AI just spreads like wildfire. However, ChatGPT is not the only AI that exists. We're gonna cover a couple of AI tools. Think of them as apps. You know, somebody asked, what's the AI you recommend? Well, for what? You know, it's like saying, what's the app you recommend? Well, for what? For checking Messenger, so anyways, it depends what you're trying to do. And I know, like I said, most of you are pastors. So we're going to dive into a little bit of tools that could be useful for pastors, for ministry. One of my goals that we started at the end of 2022 at the conference was in talking to some of the lawyers at the GC. One of the biggest problems that we face as a church is that pastors are on the top 5 professionals in the nation that break copyright rules. Bravo to you. Because you go on Google, you search an image, ocean waves, drag, drop on your PowerPoint, and now you show it to the world and you didn't credit the image, you didn't ask for permission. So we start getting into some really murky waters. There is copyright protection for religious purposes, but it doesn't cover everything. And we're not gonna get into, I do have like almost a presentation in regards to media and law about that, but we're not gonna get into that today. So one of our goals, I was like, well, how can I get my pastors to stop breaking copyright every day? Thanks to AI, we started working on a bank of images for our pastors. And this was like a pilot thing. I was like, what if I can create a bank of images? You know, the most basic images that tend to be taken. You know, a church on a hilltop, nature images. So I start generating images and create a bank so our pastors can access it. Obviously, I give access to just a couple pastors because it's a pilot program. And the images were okay. They were not the best. So that's kind of how we started our image program for our pastors. Now I'll eventually share with you, now there's more communities, there's more image databases out there. And now I would say my expertise, where I've put in the 10,000 hours, is in image generation. That is my favorite. That is, again, I'm always looking for the art form, but also the technical thing. Somebody mentioned AI can be that's where you're combining that engineering with the arts. And that's kind of where I found that medium for me. I was always looking for like that engineering side, for the techie side, but also how can I combine my art knowledge, art techniques and stuff. So if any of you are art lovers, these are tools that are gonna help you. But if you're just also looking to create an image of, you know, the moon over a church, you can do that. So yeah, that's what we're gonna get into today. And I'll show you plenty of samples. Like I said, this is just kind of like a 101 class. Maybe next year for next presentation, we can do more advanced sessions, or we've been looking into having more master classes on more advanced. We do have a Facebook group where you can go in, I'll share it with you at the end, where you can join the group and ask questions, start tinkering with more things. So yeah, we're gonna get into, so I'll show you, we'll go through examples of things that you can generate. For example, these are images we've used to promote some of our events. If you squint your eyes, it's the play on images. So yeah, we've played with a lot of stuff like that. We made a series of activities Pathfinders do, and then we hide the Pathfinder logo with it, and AI allows us to do those types of things. Same with, you know, this one. So again, those are some types of samples. I like to show this one because people really enjoy these, and I always share them on Facebook, and people go crazy over these. So yeah, our goal is that this is something I like to share a lot. Creativity is knowing how to use all your knowledge, talents, and tools to connect the problem with the solution. Like I said, we had a problem of what was happening with pastors and images from Google. So I was like, okay, we know how to use these other tools. How can we find a solution to this problem? And we'll get through things. Like I said, I work as the media director, and we're faced with a lot of things, a lot of problems. So it's like, okay, how can we tackle some of these problems with this new technology that is coming out? And I'll show you how we've tackled a lot of problems with all these AI technologies. So yeah, how to use innovative tools in media and technology to take the gospel further. I think that's we were talking, had a presentation with the GC, and it was one of those, the Adventist church was always at the forefront in technology with the printing press. Then we had the radio, then with satellite TV, and then the internet comes, and internet was scary, let's hide. The internet became this sort of frontier that we were afraid to tackle into in 2000s, and that's kind of where we started kind of falling behind in production and cinema and all these things. We're starting to catch up, but it's at like, now we're playing the catch-up game. And we were talking, we can't let this new frontier of technology, AI, we can't let this one go. We need to find ways to adapt it in an ethical way, because the ethics of AI is a whole other presentation. But yeah, how can we use it in an ethical way? How can we use it in a beneficial way. Just like every tool could be used for good, it could be used for evil. Just like a hammer could be used to build shelter for people, it could be used for some very bad stuff. So again, how can we use these tools for this? So we're going to go over these tools. The one I'm going to touch a lot on, which is my favorite, is Midjourney. Then we have ChatGPT, which is one that you've all been exposed to, a lot of you. And we'll talk a little bit on what it can do. Then we have Gigapixel, which is another image one. 11 Labs, which is another great tool that we've used a lot. Descript, Runway, and Adobe. So a lot of these big companies, we have Microsoft, Adobe, they're trying to, how can we AI something? Yes?
Can you just mention those a little bit slowly?
Yeah. So Midjourney, yeah, I'm going to go over them. Midjourney is an image generation.
Okay. All right.
That one is more, that one's quite advanced. But if you can jump into that and master it, that's my favorite. That's what I use. Every sample I'm going to show you, I've generated it with Midjourney. ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the one that most of us know. It's not a Google. Something to keep in mind when using ChatGPT, if you're not used to it or if you just started tinkering with it, it's not a Google search. It's not, it is a language model with which you can have a conversation with. So a lot of people start using it and, they use it as you can do research in it, but for example, when they're trying to do images, they say cat jumping over a fence. It's like, okay, it's not Google, that's a search. You're not searching through a gallery of images. You're asking it to generate an image. So yeah, we're gonna get into that. We have Gigapixel, which is something that I use at the conference a lot. And if some of you wanna play with it, that one, I'll show you a sample here in a bit. That one helps us enlarge images. So for example, we get a lot of images that come from our volunteers or church members. And it's a picture that somehow they took with like a Nokia phone from the 90s, for example. So that tool allows us to add more, up the resolution, enhance it, and make it print worthy if we want to print it on our magazine. It's obviously not gonna make it super beautiful. It's not gonna add that, but it is gonna add the sharpness and stuff. So I'll show you a sample. 11 Labs is a tool for audio. 11 Labs is it's a hammer. It's a very good tool, but it's also could become a very dangerous tool. It's audio generation. What does it mean? So you can it's called text to audio. You can take a paragraph, throw it in it, select the voice model, and then tell it to read the audio, and it will sound like a human. It is a tool that we've used to train voices with. What do I mean? I've taken our conference president's voice and I've trained it with an AI model. And now I can make videos where the conference president can say anything I give it, for example. So obviously in a very ethical way with his permission. Yeah, very dangerous. So don't do that. What we say here stays here. No, he knows, and I have his permission, and it's funny because and let's be honest, you can do that with anyone. I can literally go on YouTube, and if you're a pastor and you're on YouTube, I can download a sermon, grab that audio, give it to this AI, and it will learn how you speak, and then I can have it say whatever I want with your voice as an audio message. So it is yeah. So it's one of those, but we use it for the good of mankind. So that's for example, I'll give you an example of how we use that tool. We have a podcast, and to do our intros and our outros, it's very hard to do all this recording with our voice actor. So we generate the intro via text, and then we give it to 11 Labs. we trained another voice model with another staff member from our office. And then we have the AI do the audio intro for our podcast. And that way I don't have to sit down and record every intro, every outro. I can do intros and outros. In one day, I can do intros and outros for 10 episodes kind of thing. So again, that's the good.
Input the writing and then apply the voice
Yeah.
to it. And
Correct. Yeah. So maybe we'll have time for demos. Descript is another tool that we use a lot. I have to speed up. Descript, we do that one. That one's the opposite. That one does audio to text. So I can take an audio file, let's say a voice message. I can throw it in there, and then it writes me the script. So now I have an audio script. So it's backwards. Yeah, that one's very handy. I share that tool with a lot of people in communications, a lot of people that are reporters in the field. If you go out and do an interview with someone, you place your phone on the table, we conversate, then we grab that audio message, we throw it on Descript, and then it gives me a script of what was said. The cool thing is it also allows you to edit. You can edit video and audio as if it was a Word document. It's a very crazy tool. Runway is a tool that is image to video. So you give it an image, usually you give it an AI generated image, and then you tell it to add some motion to this image. So let's say I upload an image of waves crashing on some rocks, but it's just a still image. I give it to Runway, and then it adds motion, and then it makes it into a 5-second little video clip of the waves actually crashing into. Crazy, yeah. And then Adobe has a bunch of other tools that they do. So yeah, those are just probably half the tools I use in my department, and yeah, it's been fun. So yeah, we're gonna go through some samples. This is what that gigapixel image. So we give it the image, and then it sharpens the image. So whenever we receive images from church members, Pathfinder Fair, and we didn't have a photographer, and all we got is pictures that members just kind of email us, and there are all kinds of resolutions and different things. We're able to throw it in here, and then it sharpens the image, and we can enhance the resolution. If we're going to print it on a magazine, or if we want to make a banner, we can do that and enhance the image. Yeah, that's a really cool tool. I know Photoshop has something like that now built into it. I don't know how to use it in Photoshop. I've been using this one for a very long time, and I really like it.
You also mentioned the prices on different.
Yeah, so this one, yeah, that's the thing with some of these. Some are subscriptions, some are you purchase it. This one you can download it, and it gives you so many free generations per month. If you want to buy it, it's a one-time. I think I bought it for $100. It's a one-time $100 purchase. Again, it's gonna vary. Obviously, there's churches that are yeah, we're not gonna pay this money for that. But for example, at a conference department, we will definitely pay $100 to use that for printing purposes. So then we're gonna get into ChatGPT. This is I think this is still their old, I need to update this slide. This is their old UI. But I know a lot of people, you're thinking as a pastor, but I wanna show you that we can do it. The possibilities with ChatGPT are endless. It's smarter than 99.9999% of humans at this point. And that's the reality of it. It's very, very smart. It's a very well-trained model. And it can have access, can help you do research. You can do research. We were just talking at a school because they're we need to ban AI at the school. But I was how about we teach students how to properly and ethically use AI, because when they graduate, they're going to do it, plus they need to put that on their resume. If you're a well-versed individual with AI tools, that's the new Microsoft Word on the resume. People no longer put Microsoft Word on the resume because at this point, everybody knows how to use Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or Excel. But you start putting, well-versed on ChatGPT, on research, how to do research. So yeah, for students, something that we've been talking about is students, when doing a research paper, they no longer go home and do it. Now they can do the research in the classroom, and what gets graded is going to be how you do your research. How creative are you with your research? And go ahead and use AI, but we want to make sure that you know how to properly research and properly know how to use these tools to achieve an outcome. It's no longer about the outcome, but how did you get to the outcome? It's kind of like math. When it was like, show me your work, yeah, you could have the answer, and that was my problem because I would always get to the answer. But they're like, but you didn't show the work. I was like, doesn't matter. But they're like, no, we want to make sure you know the process. So, for example, this sample I have here is one of my favorite samples. We started using a little bit of AI in our Treasury department. So how does Treasury use AI? Treasury uses a lot of Excel documents. And within Excel, you can do a lot of formulas, a lot of macros, and that is more of a programmer's job. That is more of a data analyst job. They don't teach accountants how to do all these formulas and macros and coding for Excel. They teach them how to run Excel. So how do we troubleshoot these problems? When a problem pops up in Treasury in their documents, they're like, well, we need to call a developer, we need to call programmer. And I was like, guess what? Now we have an all-knowing technology that knows programming, that knows how to do that. So we started testing with our Treasury department. Hey, when you're bumping into an error on some of your documents, throw it on ChatGPT and ask it to help you and walk you through how to troubleshoot this problem. Or if you want to create a new formula, tell it, here's what I want to create. I want to create a formula that does this in this step and gets me this result. And then it starts walking you through creating this, and it's not going to, it does it for you. So that's how we've been able to implement a little bit of AI in our Treasury department. And at this point, they're running solo with AI, with ChatGPT. Again, we've done research, can you do some research? Now the research tool's a little better on ChatGPT because it can research the internet now. So you can say, can you do research? For example, I was looking at the demographic group in Midland, Texas. And the data was good, but it wasn't at this time when I had the sample, I said I need to update it. Now it can actually search the internet. It connects through Bing, and it searches through Bing, and then it gives you that result. So think of it as your all-knowing assistant. Whatever you tell your assistant, I always think of it if I had an assistant, hey, can you do the research on the demographics of Midland, Texas, and break it down by this, this, and this, and make sure you have that report by me by the end of the day. Obviously, a human would do it by the end of the day. ChatGPT would do it in 10 seconds. So use it like that as you're doing research for research on Greek mythology, on Roman history, on history through time, on events. As you're building presentations or you're doing that, use it to do your research. You do research. Obviously, you want to make sure the new tool, it actually sources where it got the information from. So you can click on it and it will take you to the article and you can do your sourcing. So again, this sample is probably a year old. But I still keep it. So yeah, that's how you, the pastor, can use. ChatGPT is free. You can access it for free, but it will only let you use, it's called the 3.5 model. As new models come out, now we're on they're calling it 4.5, but ChatGPT still says ChatGPT 4, but it's gotten some updates. It's more like a 4.5. If you use the free, it only lets you use the 3.5 model, which is, it's not that good on its research. The data the information has been trained on is information pre-2021, no, pre-2020, so it doesn't have knowledge of COVID, for example. It doesn't know TikTok. It doesn't know any of that. But again, if you ask it what was the COVID-19 pandemic, it won't know. But if you say, can you help me do some research on what was the COVID-19 pandemic, then it will do the research and give you the information. So again, it's knowing how to properly talk to it. Knowing and that is called prompt. You're prompting it to do a task. You're telling it to do a task.
So you said the better prompt is do some research.
Yeah. So for example, you can be like, hey, I'm working on a paper, as you would talk to a human, hey, Pastor, I'm working on a paper and I'm doing some research. You're from Texas, right? I'm working on research on the demographics of Midland, Texas. I'm not from there. Can you help me do that research? You're there, look through the records, look through the internet, and then Pastor's like, sure, I'll help you out. Let me go dig some files. That's how you should be talking to this technology, and that's how you will get the results. Because if I just go to Pastor, I'm like, Pastor, you're from Texas, right? What are the demographics for Midland, Texas?
I'll get back to you.
Yeah, it does. And that's what ChatGPT is going to say. I don't have that information. I don't know. But if you ask it to do the research, it will go do research, and it will come back with data for you.
Now you mentioned it's through the Bing search engine. Does that mean that it's built in to the ChatGPT?
So if you're on ChatGPT, it uses Bing on the background as the browser. So then when, for example, if it would give me the source here and it would look blue and I would click it, it opens on a Bing search engine. Because now Bing has also AI integrated into it, and now is Bing the one that's Copilot?
Yeah.
Copilot, right? Yeah. So Bing now has Copilot, which is, it's a free, that's kind of like a workaround, because word on the street is that Bing's Copilot AI is ChatGPT 4. So if you're using Bing AI, you're using the better ChatGPT for free, and you don't have to pay. Now, if you want to use the better ChatGPT through ChatGPT, you have to pay. So that's kind of like a little hack. Now, I think Copilot is trying to come up with a commercial use, and so yeah, we're testing Copilot for enterprise at the conference to see how can we integrate it for some crazy stuff. Yes.
Yeah, Ernesto, I remember several months ago, our ministry magazine came out with something about this.
Yeah.
And so I just went to, they suggested some of this.
Yeah.
Actually, you can go. So I tried ChatGPT to make a sermon.
Yeah.
And it really came out.
Yeah.
I said, I need 2 or 3 illustrations.
Yeah.
It comes out with all those
Yeah.
illustrations. I was kind of scared with this thing. Oh,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
will make me lazy if I do this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what will
Yeah.
say about that.
Oh yeah, very lazy. That's it's the same as saying, well, why do I have to make a sermon if there's thousands of them on YouTube? Let's just put a sermon on creation. Hey, everybody watch that. We've been able to do that for decades, right? So, but it's knowing, like I said, knowing how to do the homework. Now, people that are well versed in AI, for me, I can spot when something was written with AI. We recently got someone's resume for a position, and we looked at it, and I was like, somebody ran this through AI. This is AI. So again, it's very easy people are getting very well versed. So yes, you can give me a sermon on creation, and it will give you a sermon, intro, outro, samples, verses. But it's one of those, people can start spotting it. Now, like I said, it's the same with students. Schools are well, a student can just say, write me a research paper about MLK, and it will do it. So it's no longer, been having those conversations in the education department, it's no longer about the outcome, but how did you do your research for this research paper on MLK? Show me the work, show me the steps. But yeah, if you want to do that, there's an article that came out, one of the top 10 jobs that could be affected by AI is pastors. Pastors' jobs are on the line due to AI. Because if a pastor's job is just to preach a sermon, yeah, I can do that. I can write it, and then we can throw it on voice, and then we can put a face, and just watch the video. Done, right? We don't need humans. Let's just pump 100 sermons out a week, and that's how you deal with the pastor shortage. But that's not the point of pastors, right? You know, pastors do so much more than that, and that's the difference. So yeah, that's kind of conversation we've been having on, you know, if it's just, but yeah, same with, like I said, with students, with the research, with the homework. Now, for example, if you have a very advanced math problem, ChatGPT can do it. I can grab a math problem and throw it in here and be like, give me the answer. But that's not what the teachers are looking for. It's more like, teach me how to solve this problem. And then it will walk you through the steps. Or like, hey, here's my work, check my work. Because now ChatGPT, you can take a picture, upload it, and be like, can you check my work? You can take, yeah, it's very crazy technology, yes.
Yeah, I mean, university professors are up to all this too. Because,
Oh yeah.
you know, they make you sign now students have to sign I don't know what you call it.
Like a waiver?
A waiver
Like
saying, you know, they're not going to use this stuff.
Yeah.
And they actually have software that watches for papers that you don't write and things that you don't do.
Yeah. So it's one of those, it's just like, people are on the fence. I know I saw a conference that just said we're banning AI here in North America. They released a statement like, we're just banning AI, period. Nobody can use AI. But to me, I'm like, well, that's just, you're just saying bad, you know? When you bad, like you don't know it. We need to learn, we need to understand. And that's one of my purposes, you know, to educate people on these technologies and how it can actually benefit. So for example, my brother was saying, universities, the education system is actually, what do we do with this stuff? You know, how do we know we can't just ban it. So how can we, but they're also afraid because they don't know. I did a presentation at Andrews, and I also had one with the staff at Southwestern University, and they said, we don't want to ban it, but we also don't know it. We need to know it, but we also can't teach it. So they were saying, we know we need to teach it to our students, but we don't know it, so we don't know how to teach it to make them good students. So again, it's this cycle. It's like, okay, how can we educate, especially in our Adventist system? You know, how can we do it? I know I've had presentations at Montemorelos, Universidad of Montemorelos, at the Adventist University in Colombia, the Adventist University in Argentina, but they're on the opposite end. They're like, we need to teach our students. We need to teach them how to code with AI. We need to teach them how to build all these tools and things with AI, because it will just speed up the way we can like spread the gospel, the way we can send stuff out. But yeah, I'll show you some more samples as we walk through. I know I get stuck on ChatGPT a lot because that's, especially here, you know, for pastors, like I said, as you're doing your research, I had a conference president ask me, can I teach ChatGPT to be me? That way it can just like do everything for me. And I was like, I mean, you can, but I don't know if that's what you should be doing. Yeah.
And a question of whether there's something you're familiar with. I was at his written a few weeks ago, and they had used, because I was on evangelist, they had used some sort of AI program where they could take John Bradshaw's English sermon, but they could make him present it in another language.
Yeah, I'm going to show you that here in a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that too, which is very cool because this Sunday, we're having constituency session. And we have a constituency report video from our conference president. But we have about 10 different language groups in our conference. And usually all materials come out in English. Well, this is the first year that we're making our conference report video in Spanish, Russian, Ukrainian, Chinese, and I forgot the other language. But yeah, through technology like that.
AI?
Yeah.
It was pretty accurate translation.
So that's the thing. You need to make sure you have someone to check it for you. Like, check your work. I'm not going to put a language I don't know and be like, yep, it did it.
Right.
So yeah, make sure someone's kind of checking your work. It gets it 99.1% accurate. The thing is, the audio must be pretty clear. So sermons are really easy. Devotionals, piece of cake. We did a documentary, and we tried translating the documentary to Spanish and Russian because those are our biggest groups. It really struggled with the documentary because there's so many audio layers and ambient sounds. So it struggles when other audios. But if it's just John Bradshaw talking in a room, piece of cake.
What
And
about
it,
translating the written material?
yeah, it can do that. So yeah, we've been able to translate stuff through ChatGPT. We can just toss it in there. We just grab the script, throw it on there. Can you do it in Spanish? Obviously, make sure you know the language or have someone that can check your homework. So for example, I have a Russian volunteer that speaks Russian and Ukrainian. So he can check our Russian Ukrainian translations. We have Chinese volunteers, so I run it through them to check our Chinese. So it's again, you need to make sure you're not just jumping in the deep end without taking swim lessons or some floaties. I'll give you a sample. And what they're using is one tool, but there's an even better tool, and I'll give you a sample of that here in a bit. So now we're going to get into image generation. That's my favorite. This is within a year, and this is outdated. That's 23. But I just want to show you how fast the technology evolved to going from this to this in 1 year. It's just phenomenal. And it was the same prompt, same parameters, same language. This is through Midjourney. Now it was a different engine because the engines evolved. Again, another different image. And I just want to show you like the evolution of these images. We'll stop her.
So with Midjourney, I know this is deep, but
Yeah.
you can help me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
What are the phrases or what are the screens, the prompts that you use to really narrow in and focus in on? So for example, let's say I want to have, last night we heard a sermon on Elijah versus Obadiah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want it, so there's a weakness because you can't keep Elijah's image consistent when you're trying to change it in a different environment.
Yep.
But what you can do is you can kind of delineate between the difference between Obadiah and Elijah by describing what they're wearing, what their hair is looking like, whatever. Okay, but I don't know what the prompts are or the screen text to narrow in and say this absolutely has to be a part of it. Like, for example, 2 animals going into the ark, give me 2 elephants. Can you help me with that? Like, what is that?
Well, first of all, again, AI is AI. It's not a human, so it has no religious context of anything. AI doesn't know who Jesus is. AI doesn't know who Noah was. AI doesn't know who the ark was. So first of all,
it's basically an old guy with a beard and
Yeah.
an ancient prophet.
Exactly.
Okay, so but I want 2 of those guys. So
Yeah.
what is the string? Is it like I've heard of the IW2 where you do
Yeah.
something like
Yeah, strength. So that's getting into parameters. Like we're getting into like, that's a 300 level course right there. We're getting into, and prompting is like the new code. You know, you're learning a new language. You're learning HTML at this point. So yeah, knowing your proper prompting. And again, it's learning how to talk to this technology. Because once you start learning the parameters, the IWs, obviously your ARs, your W, your C, your S.
Okay,
what?
Stop right there.
Yeah.
Throw me some bones. Okay, now you're talking acronyms that we
Yeah.
like to use as pastors. Like, okay, so what is it? So you said IW,
Yeah.
AR,
Yeah. AR aspect ratio.
aspect ratio.
Yeah,
And
so,
what was the other one you just said?
You have your C, which is C, and then you give it a value, which is chaos. How much chaos do you want in this image? Do you want it like very dark? Obviously, if you don't want any sort of chaos in it, don't put the C.
What does the IW stand for again?
The IW is a 0 through 10 level, and it helps you keep the consistency in the image.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the other one? You mentioned something else.
S, stylized. How stylized? The higher the stylized level, the more realistic. The lower, the more artistic. So for example, something like this would have a, my style was like a 700 because it goes from a 50 to a 900 level.
Is there somewhere I can go that shows me how to prompt these?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
How about we talk after
Yeah,
about
that's
this?
right.
Yeah. Like I said, that's a very advanced step. I know. So yeah, I'll show you. So for example, I prompted this whole series. And again, the challenge is in the consistency of the images. Because anybody can say, Jesus Christ walking on water. You get 4 options. But then you never, that's the other thing too. Every image you get is an original image that you will never get again. You cannot go back tomorrow and be like, hey, can you give me that image of Jesus walking on water again? It will generate a whole new image in a whole new setting. So yeah, again, it's not a search engine. So it's knowing how to keep the consistency. So for example, here I wanted to keep, and this is kind of where the cinema background comes in. I know how to talk to it to generate cinematic images. That's where like a whole degree comes in just to like generate this whole series of, so again, keeping the consistency in the tones, the colors, the darkness, the storm, the colors, the chaos that we're talking about. And then we have this guy walking on water. So again, it wasn't just Jesus walking on water, because it would have just made some individual, a stereotypical Jesus walking on water. But that's when you need to like really dive in and say, who described Jesus? Where was he from? An individual, from this era, from this region of the world, from, this type of skin tone, with this type of hair, in a setting that is like this, with this aspect ratio, with these color tones. So that's where the art terms and all the science comes in. But yeah, that's when you get to this stuff. Now, if you just want an image of, Jesus walking on water, you can say that, and it will give you a Jesus walking on water. But then I get a lot of people like, no, but I wanted that one. Well, yeah, but that one's the 10,000 hours kind of knowledge. We've generated like these, for example, like vector files for a series. Same, these are all AI. Yeah.
What are there licenses, like an AI generated image? Can you use that for anything?
Yeah.
Commercials, whatever?
Yeah.
Are there licenses?
Yeah, you can use it. And here's kind of you cannot copyright an AI image. So for example, I generated this, I cannot copyright it.
So if we do that for our church, then somebody else could use it?
Yeah, anybody can go and use it. And also when you generate, those images are public.
Okay.
Whenever you generate, it becomes public domain. You cannot say like, I own it and you used it, so you're in trouble. No, because it's...
So this is the safest way for us to get images and not have copyright infringement.
Exactly, yeah. So for example, when I generated that whole bank of images for pastors, I couldn't even get mad if somebody from Texas used it. Because right? Yeah, I'm sorry, I keep throwing Texas out. But now here's the thing when it comes to copyright. Let's say I make this image, but let's say I want to add something here, so I go in on Photoshop or Illustrator, grab my iPad and I start drawing on it and I add the human element, then I can copyright the image. Right. Once you start adding that human element. To me is the protection. We're also working on, I say we, like the community, are working on the protection of images because there are the images that take 10,000 hours. It's very different than the Jesus walking on water to the image I showed you, where it takes real knowledge. And what I always say, I was like, at least just give me credit, but then we know what happens with the world. So then sometimes I'll put, a little watermark on it, and people are like, why are you putting a watermark on it? If it's public domain, you don't own it. It's like, yeah, but I put in the work, I put in the hours to get this image out. And now if you can use it, the watermark's gonna be on it. I have no problem with the public using it.
If you generate that image and then you put your signature on it, doesn't it therefore become yours because of that human element of the signature? Or is that
No, that doesn't. Yeah, that doesn't count. Yeah, it's more when you start manipulating the image. Yeah.
If I could just use the music industry, because I'm a pastor,
Yeah,
but I do
yeah.
music.
Yes.
There was a recent case that came out that a very famous rapper used AI to generate the initial song, but then they went in and they redesigned the bridge and they rewrote the chorus. So the court upheld that the AI generated song could be copyrighted because it had the human element.
Yeah.
It had to show that you actually put in the work.
Exactly.
So keeping the history in the ruling, the rationale, the court said, if you show the history of the AI generation, then you can copyright it.
Exactly.
But you cannot copyright AI generated art or music of any sort unless there's a human element that worked into it.
Yeah. And that's the show me your work kind of thing. If you can show me, if you show me it's more than Jesus walking on water. Now, there's been another conversation of copywriting prompts, because I do have my prompt document locked up away because I'm like, I don't want people, like I've worked on these prompts I put in the 10,000 hours in these prompts, and now that is something that can be sold. You know, there's a market now for prompts. If you want to like go buy prompts, there's a market for prompts where it's like people that are specializing, and I can sell you prompts. If you're like, hey, give me that prompt for that series of Jesus and them, I can sell you that prompt because that's a very human element. I wrote it. Like my brain put it together, and I came up with the parameters. I came up with the weights and stuff. Yeah.
If you're going to address this, you can address it later. But do you have helpful information for us who are novices to start learning a lot of this?
Yeah. So I would say if you start with ChatGPT does image generation now. So start playing there, you know, again, but start with, can you generate an image of this?
I don't even know what to ask it. So in other words,
can you generate an image of Jesus walking on water? Just start. Just the normal, just conversational. You know, now you're talking to the artist at church. So yeah.
So we have to change from the Google mindset to conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the big thing. We're getting away from that search era and we're going into the conversational era where we're talking. So again, when you talk to Alexa or when you start talking to these technologies, you know, it's like, hey, Alexa, can you order some toilet paper? You know, it's as if you were telling your kid to order toilet paper. Kind of thing is no longer, Alexa, toilet paper, buy. You know, that's more of a search, like,
So the challenge is you can say, please make me an image of walking on water, but at the point that you say, would you lighten it, would you darken it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the prompting. Can you, add some wind. No. It regenerates, yeah. But you can say keeping the same look, the same aesthetic, the same parameters, the same clothing on the individual. So sometimes I say keep the entire image as is, but change the aspect ratio to a 16:9. And it doesn't keep it 100%, but it keeps 70% of it, and it looks pretty similar. But sometimes like, man, I wish the previous one was the one. You can't go back. I mean, you can't go back and save the image, but you cannot go back. Or you can say reference the image you just generated and add rocks to it.
Can you save the images as you go?
You can save the images. Yeah, you right-click, download. So then there's another series we made, like a felt style series. You can get, that's the creativity. Like I was like, oh, what would nativity scene made out of felt look like? Let me speed up. Then we started making children's stuff. So we make these backdrops for like children's, for like BVS, and these are for like printed materials, some more BVS like backdrops.
Now that's on my Midjourney.
This is all Midjourney. Yeah, this is all Midjourney. Again, this is like, I'm getting very, very specialized. So Midjourney is, you can get free, and same, you get some free credits, but you'll like burn through them in minutes. It's the one I always recommend. You can do a $10 a month but same, I feel like you burned through that one. There's a $30 a month, which is more than enough. It's very sufficient with the amount of credits. Now there's a $60 a month, which is it's a private channel, so your images are no longer, the public can see them. They're still public domain, but the public can't see them. So they just kind of get locked away in a locked folder in a way. I have the $30. I'm still gonna show them.
So can we search AI images to use in place of just Googling images? So that
Yeah.
in public domain, we don't have to worry about the
You
copyright
can
issue,
search.
But then we don't have to necessarily know the language.
You can't search for those images. It's just knowing, okay, where do I go and find these? Because there's no like Google images of AI images. So like I said, we're working. I know a couple people have been like getting together to create like an Adventist AI image generated database through the GC. It's kind of like, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but yeah, the GC is like, hey, maybe we should make like our own like photo image gallery, and anybody that's generating AI images that would like to share their images, just upload them, and sure, put your information, and hopefully people credit you, but you are agreeing that it is public domain, that anybody can use that image. Now there's people are like, no, I generated these images, they're on my website, and I would charge you to have access to my images. I just saw something like that this morning where someone is charging like $1,000 a year, like an annual subscription to access their AI images.
Public domain images?
Yeah, even though they're public domain, but they're locked. Like, well, that's the thing. They're public, but the images are locked. So in order for me to give you a key to get in the room, you got to pay. But all this is public, But so yeah, it's that. So yeah, anyways, just going through like different themes of images. Generated. This is a recent favorite. Oh, very good. Yeah, but it's knowing how. Right. Now here's a different one. This is kind of where the wording comes in. So this is Jesus walking on water, but using different artistic styles. So with like a Van Gogh, Picasso, and like a Monet. So again, it's knowing your art history, knowing your artist, and eventually, for myself, there's certain styles that I've defined as my own styles, and people are like, "Oh yeah, that's a very." So for example, this previous one, this is a very like my own type of style. I know this is a prompt that I can use for anything. I can say, I don't know, 9/11, and with this type of style. So again, you start perfecting. That's like the artistic side of it.
So that's a prompt that you have locked up.
That's a prompt that I have locked up, yeah. Now these I can give them to you. It's just Jesus walking on water as if painted by Monet. Or delete at Picasso, delete at Van Gogh. And that's pretty much it. Now we'll skip this one. So this is a sample of combining tools.
Searching for answers, for provision, for peace. Amidst the waves and the winds,
this is what I was telling you about using text to audio. And then even the background soundtrack is an AI generated track.
The Apostle Paul reassured
Yeah, so we use ChatGPT to generate the script. Then we use 11 Labs for the audio, and then Descript to add the captions.
love that has no bounds, peace that surpasses understanding, strength for
Exactly.
each day, and grace that covers us.
Yeah.
Christ is not just greater,
Yeah.
he is the greatest.
Yeah, so we made these for camp meeting. We made about 20 of these for camp meeting. They were like intros. We have the countdown.
These all testify to his
We have the countdown, and then one of these plays, and we generated about 20 of them in 2 days with the, yeah.
What are you using for the video, the image?
Oh, video when we use these, we do have like license for stock video. Yeah, we didn't generate the video because I still don't like it, but we did. It's just like stock video from a licensing place that we have.
What's the one do you recommend?
For
That's stock video license?
so we use something called Storyblocks, which has video, images, audio. Yeah, a lot of like media people use like Storyblocks. So that's where I got all my stock video. Yeah.
We could do like praise and worship,
Yeah. So this is our conference president.
Conference, and I'm so looking forward to camp meeting. But as we take this time over the next few days to...
This is him doing an invite in English.
share
Obviously, that's him. That's his voice.
excerpts from scripture as well as
But then,
spirit of prophecy.
we'll skip.
My tech, antes del campamento, oraremos y compartiremos
So then we did
extractos de las
Spanish.
escrituras y del espíritu de profecía cada noche para prepararnos adecuadamente. El texto que quiero compartir contigo está en el capítulo 4 de Santiago, versículo 10.
So it's not just dubbing. I know the It Is Written one, they're just dubbing their materials. I've seen a lot of pastors just dubbing. This one's a different tool, very expensive, that like also edits the face to match the lips. It matches the lips, it matches the expressions. Yeah. And it's 99.1% accurate. There's like 2 words that it just like butchers, but you get the... Oh, they'll give them pass. Yeah.
That's way better than we do otherwise.
Yeah. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Yeah. Oh. So with all of this, we're creating YouTube Shorts, we're creating TikTok, we're creating promos, we've blow up. I'm a one-man media team at a conference. So, but now, thanks to AI, I have a staff of 30. So yeah, like I said, we create graphics, we clean up stories because we do audio to text, so we clean up stories. So something we recently did, we did an interview for our magazine, our union magazine, The Gleaner, the union magazines. So we went and we interviewed. So let's say I'm interviewing my brother again. And, we're interviewing Texas. We put a recorder and we chat, blah, blah, blah. We're done. We grab that audio file. I give it to Descript. I just throw audio to text, right? And it just gives me the text. I just want the script. So it gives me all the text. I grab all the text, copy. I go to ChatGPT, paste. Can you give me the 10 pointers that we talked about during this meeting? It reads it, and then it gives me 10 pointers of what we talked about. And then I can go and write my article. It's like, oh yeah, I sat down with my brother from Texas and we talked about these 10 points, and here's a quick breakdown. And then I can go back to ChatGPT and be like, hey, can you clear up a little bit on when we were talking about AI? Can you break that down a little bit more? And then it'll say, oh yeah, you guys talked about Descript, you guys talked about ChatGPT. Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. So I no longer have to go and read and re-listen to that audio tape, so we can push things out. So that's what I mean by we clean up stories. We do a lot of research, like I was saying, and we can edit videos now from that aspect.
And saying we, you mean you and your AI.
Me and my AIs. Yeah.
It keeps sounding like you.
I know, man. It sounds like we're the team, right? Yeah. I do have an intern. We're the first conference to offer a media internship to a media major student. We had somebody from Southern. And she was just like, no, this is a lot. Like, she's like, I just graduated. I don't need to learn more stuff right now. She's like, you're bringing me back flashbacks to college. So I showed her how to do a couple things with AI, but it's a lot. It's a whole, I'm like in the deep end of AI, and it's insane what we can do. Like I said, I was just teaching at Andrews. They have a new PhD program in mass media. And, but they said, they're like, we don't have anyone teaching AI. They're like, and we know we need to teach them AI. So I went in and I taught their PhD professors about AI, and then to their PhD students about AI. And I was like, I don't even have, like, there's no degrees in it. There's no books about it. Like, we're just now starting. It's a world, 15 years from today, the books will be written about the history of it. You will be able to take the courses, the 500 level courses. But right now, even Harvard or Stanford, they have like the entry level courses that you can do, like, what is AI? And that's more like the theology of it, like what, like it's not the practical of it. The practical is a very you go out there and you get your hands dirty with AI.
So you're really on the cutting edge of using this technology for the church.
For the church, yeah.
Hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. So, and I'm at the point where I'm like, I just want to teach it, teach. Yeah, teach it. I'm like, I know it. I'm keeping up with it, keeping up with the tools. And the other thing too, I said at the beginning is connecting the dots. Creativity is connecting the dots. Okay, like I just said, well, I recorded this. Right. So I know this tool that can do audio to text. Right. Well, let me throw it here. Well, but then I have this other tool that can do text to research. So let me throw it here. Well, and then I have this other tool that does text to audio. Well, you start connecting the dots. It's not, many people are like, well, what's that one tool? I'm like, no, I connected 5 different tools to get this final result. So it's knowing how to connect those dots, because there is not one AI that does it all. It's not. It's like saying there's no one app that does it all.
So is there an unlimited number of AI generators, just like there are apps?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, there's AIs coming out every single day. There's like a new AI. But the thing is, there's also AIs that die every single day because they just. So for example, when ChatGPT came out, it was the number one for research. But then all of a sudden, ChatGPT can generate images. So it just. Yeah, for the paid version. But then it ate up other image generators. Obviously, it didn't eat Midjourney, because Midjourney is way more advanced because they just specialize in image generation. So they just kind of start like butchering each other up and like eating each other's market kind of thing. For example, when ChatGPT then released their image research. So you can take a picture, give it to ChatGPT and ask it what's on this image. Or, there was the one, a basic example, you can take a picture of your fridge, open the fridge, take a picture, give it to ChatGPT, and okay, what can I cook up with what's on this image? And it will give you a recipe. So there was another AI that could do that, but once ChatGPT can do that, that other AI company went just they were done.
They're going to eventually probably monetize this.
Yeah.
All entirely.
Oh yeah.
Free right now.
Yeah. So the thing is with AI, they're already like the monetization's already there, because yes, you can all use the free one, and they're still getting a benefit, because by you using the free one, you're training their model. So they're like, sure. Why are we going to charge them? They're going now. If you want the fast access to the latest model, pay up. So for me, I got to pay up because I want all the features. I want to be at the top of the line. I want the fast research. I want all the latest features, and I'm willing to pay the $20 a month for this assistant. Now we have, students that might want to use the free one but if a student's trying to do research, they're not going to get that much research with the free one, because it's not that good of a research tool. And so this is the Facebook group that's been created, AI Advent Lab. If you want to join and just kind of introduce yourself. Any of you on the group already? No? So yeah, join the group and you'll see samples. People post on there every day, or like, hey, check this out. It's on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. They're talking about doing like a Discord group, or it's just knowing, okay, what does everybody know how to use? Another thing with AI is a very heavy technology. It is, even if you download the app, the AI doesn't live on your phone or your computer. It's not software. That is what throws a lot of people off. They're like, what do you mean it's not software? It just means you access it. You need internet. It's kind of like, it's like a phone call, right? Like your computer is talking to a huge server, and then the AI action happens in those computers, because our computers cannot handle an AI model to live within it. Now I know there's NVIDIA working on chips so they can do AI processing, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, and that's the future of computers. Computers that have enough chip technology in it that they can run AI natively. But right now it's not possible unless you build a custom computer and then you you install the AI in your computer, and literally that computer's only job is running the AI. Like, you would not use that computer for a million other things. So yeah, AI is, like I said, it's a very heavy program. It's a code. They're codes now that they're very heavy, and it takes a lot of power from your computer. Yeah, so that's the Facebook group. Join it. Just see what people are doing. I didn't even share with you, but now there's like audio generation. So you can prompt, it's like text to audio. So you can prompt music, instrumental sounds.
What's that called?
Which one?
No, what you use for music.
I believe it's spelled Sono, Sono. Yeah, that one like broke the internet 2 weeks ago because everybody, like, it just went public and it just crashed for like 3 days. Like, you couldn't access, because everybody was trying to access it. So it was kind of like when ChatGPT came out, it just crashed for hours. Yeah, so that one's very cool. Yeah, so again, it's just knowing these tools, and you know, there's the saying out there, it's AI is not going to take anyone's job, but those who do know how to use AI will have the advantage. And that's what we're saying with a lot of the students right now as they're graduating. It's like, you guys need to. It's like, no, I'm not an engineer major, so I don't need to know AI. It's like, no. Theologians need to know AI, nurses, accountants, everybody needs to start like diving into it. Because it's, like I said, we even did some AI for our HR. We implemented AI in our HR department for processes. So we're training some AI like bots to help with like onboarding and processes. But yeah, outside of doing media, I do a lot of AI implementation in our conference.
As I reflect on Ernesto's presentation, one thought stands out. The future of ministry is being shaped by those who embrace and innovate with AI. So what part of his story sparked your own imagination? How could it transform your ministry? And reflection is really powerful. So when this episode ends, I encourage you to take 5 or 10 minutes to consider how you can put his ideas into action. Well, that's it for this episode. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at podcast@propelconference.org. And please join us for this year's Propel Conference coming to Puyallup, Washington, April 27 to 30, 2025. It's not too late to register at propelconference.org. Special thanks to Ernesto Hernandez for speaking at the 2024 Propel Conference, and to Islam and Christianity for sponsoring this episode. This has been the Propel Podcast, inspiration and innovation to grow your church. The podcast is produced by the Sermon View crew, and the event recording services were provided by Adventist Learning Community. I'm Larry Witzel, wishing you God's richest blessing in your own evangelistic journey. Please join us again next time for another episode of the Propel Podcast.